Big news of the day, not a lot of people I think were really expecting this. The NRA putting out a statement that they are declaring bankruptcy, but not necessarily going away, or at least the way they say it. They said Friday that they had filed for bankruptcy in US court as part of a larger restructuring plan aimed at removing its footprint in New York, bound for Texas. They say that they would restructure as a Texas nonprofit to exit what it said was a quote, corrupt political and regulatory environment in New York, which I think is quoting Trump. But anyway, they don't like it. That's currently where it's registered. And they say, we are dumping New York and we are pursuing plans to reincorporate the NRA in Texas. That's what Wayne LaPierre said. Hey, he's still alive. So anyway, we've got a little bit of speculation about why this is happening. We can certainly talk about what's gonna end up happening with the NRA, but they really slid in some big news on a Friday afternoon there.
Yeah, it seems like this is the kind of bankruptcy that is what the airports seem to go through every 10 years or so, and maybe not the type of bankruptcy that ordinary people undergo that has some kind of lasting effect. Unfortunately, I can't imagine them disappearing.
Yeah, Jordan, what do you think?
They're not going anywhere. I mean, it's not. They're just. As I think the initial reaction to the headline, people were ecstatic, but it's ultimately to circumvent prosecution or investigation from Letitia James. And sure, Texas is a much more hospitable environment. Like Greg Abbott is never going to come after the NRA. Future Republican officials at the state level in Texas are never going to come after the NRA. So it certainly seems just purely designed to just avoid Letitia James.
Yeah, and if people don't remember, this isn't even that many months ago. We've just had this whole, like attempted coup thing in the meantime. But yeah, the AG for New York was looking into the possibility that they had, to basically take your pick of whatever corrupt use of their funds, using it for their own personal expenses, giving contracts to blah, 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 all that stuff. The surprising thing is that they had lasted as long as they did. I would imagine they would wanted that protection earlier. I guess they slid by on the fact that up until very recently, there weren't that many Democrats who were really willing to hold them accountable either, let alone the Republicans. I'm not a legal expert, and I assume because maybe it's different because these are financial crimes, but is it this easy to just shut down all the investigations? You say that you're gone and then you're over there, but it's the same people, the same board, the same name, the same employees. Is that actually gonna work?
They don't behave as though they're under an abundance of caution here. I mean, didn't they just appoint Ollie North director like a few I mean, it feels like a million years ago, but that was. This is not the conduct you see an agency or organization engage in if they have any sort of fear of retribution or accountability, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this is behavior you'd see from an organization or entity that is flaunting its status. They know they're pretty much outside the purview of any regulatory agency, certainly in this federal administration, but certainly in Texas. So if they were to go there, reincorporate, do whatever, they're going to be safe there. But it highlights a system that we have just like come to begrudgingly accept, where the most powerful, influential entities in the country just have no punishment, no repercussions for bad behavior, for protecting industries that have led to untold violence in society. When you have so much blood on your hands and you are this brazen in your disregard for any accountability, I think it says a lot about the underlying effects, the underlying society that it rests upon.
Yeah, and the interesting thing was over the past couple of years, there were every once in a while stories would pop up that seemed to indicate that they were having monetary problems, which always seemed so surprising considering how many millions of Americans are members. They were obviously, much more so, I believe, in 2016 than 2020, big political donors and all of that. I think that's one of the things that in the end caused a problem. I mean, they're registered as a charity, but they're clearly making tons of money. They have their own media thing. They're funding political campaigns. And there were, questions about where some of their funding was actually coming from. So if the move does end up stopping these investigations, I mean, obviously the biggest issue with that is the loss of accountability, the loss of justice, but even just the loss of answers, really finding out what has actually been going on there in the past few years. It seems like maybe we're not going to get any of that information, which also, like, I forget which which of it was of you that said it, but I know a lot of people greeted this initial breaking news as they're shutting down. That's actually it. Even though in the press release that they put out, they're saying that they're in their best financial position for a really long time, which is sure, it could be lying, they're liars, but it doesn't necessarily look like that's imminently going to be happening.
No, unfortunately. This is, they just ultimately represent the gun manufacturer lobby. It is going to be a lobbyist organization and a lobbyist group disguised as a nonprofit. They have a thin veneer of advocacy on behalf of gun rights, but ultimately it is to defend a for-profit industry, an industry that is led to just, again, untold deaths and blood on their hands. So this is, they're not going anywhere, sadly, as much as I wish they would.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.